Good morning, good morning. And today, this day is our given day to live to our fullest. And so this morning I wanted to actually begin our conversation with some dialogue about the Garden of Life. And in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. This is Genesis 1:1-4. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And humankind was not woven, so-called has not woven the web of life, but rather we are but one thread within it. And so whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. So all things are bound together. All things connect. So today, the Garden of Life. We were given the Garden of Eden. We were put in the Garden of Life, and then given responsibility to follow. And as a result, and then we're given dominion. And so dominion really stands for stewardship and responsibility, not control, like the difference between a leader and a dictator. Most important, though, that the dominion means is self. So we have dominion over self. And there is an eternal part of that, eternity part of that, we could call that. And astronomers, actually, they estimate that there's between us and the nearest fixed star, there's matter enough so that we can have all of the millions of those atoms rearranged based on energy and what we actually are, aligned with. So as a result of that, we know that as the Lord planted the garden towards the east in Eden, and then he planted and placed man, whom he had formed into that, and that was the earth's beginnings. And out came forth the sprouts, and we're really talking about, the garden. And then the Lord God took the man and put him into the garden to cultivate it and to keep it. So as it is that we're looking at in the beginning, understanding then, leaping forward a little bit, that all things are given with what is called energy. And so as we begin to take a look at that, the human body and the earth are one, and the human body energy clock operates in all of what's called the sun up to sundown, and then from sundown to sun up. So today I'm going to ask you if you would do something, and that is to make a circle, make it large enough on your piece of paper. And then you're going to divide it by drawing a line down the center from left to right, and then a horizontal line, I meant from top to bottom, vertical, and then horizontal from left to right. So now we've got your circle divided into 4 quadrants. And then you're going to take each of those and put 2 more lines inside each quadrant, so you have 3 sections. And if you'll do that, you've got a total of 3, 6, 9, 12 sections within this human body energy clock. And I want to help you today understand that everything is in our body operating at what is called a peak time and rest time. Our organs are functioning at a peak time and they get rest time. And we can begin to identify how we actually can repair, restore energy by paying attention to some of this so-called human body energy clock, and how we can then go and put what is called life back in, and because the body actually resonates at a frequency. So we'll get into that in just a minute. So I'm going to help you, each and every person, at the top of the clock, the line that's at the north position, write 11 a.m. And then where it goes to the right, put 1 p.m. on the next top of the line in the outside of your margins, 1 p.m. And then 3 p.m. And then 5 p.m. is on the farthest right at the horizontal line. Then lower is 7 p.m., 9 p.m., and at the south pole, if you will, is 11 p.m. Moving to the left, 1 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m., up 7 a.m., and 9 a.m. So you'll see the polarity from the north to the south. You have 11 a.m. on the north and 11 p.m. on the south. Going to the right, you have 1 p.m., and if you draw the line all the way down to the other side, you have 1 a.m. You'll see the polar opposite, 1 p.m. to 1 a.m., then on the left. Then going to 3 p.m., you'll have 3 a.m. if you drew the line all the way across the circle, making sure that you have this clarity. Now, in between each of these so-called divisions, I'm going to give you the part of the body that is at its peak. So, between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m., heart. To the right, next division is small intestines. Then bladder. Then kidneys. And then pericardium. P-E-R-I-C-A-R-D-I-U-M. Then triple warmer. Going to the left of 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. is gallbladder. Then the liver, and then the lungs from 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. And then large intestines. And then the stomach. And then 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. is the spleen. All right. So now that you have this circle, you have all of the body parts and their energy clock, they're operating at their peak. I'm going to have you put a little mark by the heart, a little dot on the outside, and between 5 p.m. and 7, put a little dot where the kidneys are, and then move to the left between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. where the stomach is, and put a dot there. Those are the time frames when to feed the body and fuel the system, and that's your time frame to eat for your peak optimum, best. So let's start it at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. That's your stomach time. That's eat breakfast. Fruit, protein, low GI, carbs, healthy fats, and take your supplement intake. And then it moves to the spleen. Go work out. Be active. And the spleen is associated with mental powers, supports metabolism, and is responsible for converting nutrients into energy. And then we move into 11 a.m. to 1, the heart. Eat lunch and socialize. Enjoy conversations. Connect with people, thinking business, and cooperate. Reach out to people to be of service. Nutrition is important because it will balance out our body. You're eating light enough not to be too full. You want to be comfortable. Then 1 to 3 is the small intestine. Solve your problems and get organized. Sort out the issues. The body is digesting lunch. So it's this great sorting time, thinking about focus of business and strategy. And then 3 p.m. to 5, work, study, take in more hydration. And this is the best time for efficient work and to have your attention around, getting the day in order. And drink, like I said, more water, but it'll help your body detoxify because we're moving into the kidney high performance time. This is when you eat dinner and restore your energy. And your kidneys store your energy reserves. If you feel tired, what do you spend your energy on? Put yourself first. So where's that energy going? Are you putting energy into other things? This is time to refuel because we're going to go into helping the body have the rest of the day in the state where you're not going to eat. You're going to actually let the body start working. So from 7 p.m. to 9, this is socialize. This is to have fun time. The pericardium is responsible for circulation and brain and reproductive organs. Best time to conceive, get a massage, and this is the time where your pericardium is at its peak. Now we move from 9 to 11. Thyroid and adrenals. Your thyroid is your temperature. This is your triple warmer. So you might start thinking about, when we start talking about nutrients in a minute, all this plays into the time frame. It's responsible for energy transfer, temperature and metabolism. Avoid eating. Chill out, relax, and read. Then we're moving into the gallbladder. Sleep and regenerate. If you have gallstones, you may have pain at this time. That's from 11 p.m. to 1. 1 to 3, the liver. Deep resting and dreaming. If you wake up at this time, your liver is overwhelmed by the detoxing process. Alcohol, chemicals, drugs, poor diet, all need detox by the liver. So this is time to just pay attention. Now, 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. is the lungs. Sleep soundly. If you cough at this time, your lungs are expelling toxins. 5 to 7, large intestine. Wake up and drink water. Go for a brisk walk. No caffeine at this hour. Your body needs water for a healthy colon. Now we're talking 16 ounces of water, ideally at this time. And then we go back into 7 a.m. to 9, eat the breakfast. Now, we're talking about some energy cycles. And so what is energy? As we know, there are different types of energy to be quantified. It can be measurable. And we know that our energy, you might say, my energy is low, my frequency, or I just feel like I'm flat about this time of day. And watch the pattern. We'll actually go for something sweet, or we'll go for that's a blood sugar low. And it could be when you're hitting your wall. You might say, I hit my wall about 10:30 in the morning, at 2:30 in the afternoon, about 5:30 before my dinner hour, and we can look at organs that might be an indicator. Now, this was the beginnings of biofeedback. In the quantum physics, there is a process of discovering like the intangible laws of electromagnetism, and that will inevitably change the way we practice like conventional Western medicine, for example. And so many areas of the world, however, have been using this invisible energy for diagnosis and healing for thousands of years, and acupuncture and other ancient healing therapies, and the imbalances that reside in our bodies and minds can be detectable and then reduced to a corrective electromagnetic field. Now, this is important because what we're looking at right now is it's called frequency or wave patterns or vibration. And so we're looking at it from, there's a limited understanding of the intangibles. And so, somehow we have ignored the therapies or the practices which are capable to helping our body heal from disease. So we look at electrical energy or frequencies in the garden of life. If our body is a living organism, then it needs living food. So the whole dialogue of the earth's mantle, having it be a living, let's call it earth's mantle, all the microorganisms in the soil is important for our gut to have it be. Our gut is our living, let's call it soil. So we need to have what is called that higher frequency. And a healthy body resonates at a frequency of 62 to 70 megahertz. That's MHz. And when our frequency drops to 58 megahertz, MHz, is that when the disease starts. So a bacteria, a virus, a disease, each having their own low frequency that can influence our energy field, is when we become the host or host body to take on invasion. And so subsequently, we all become the invitation for taking on lower frequencies. And so purely simple, we know that there are, even from music, it's a whole tone. It can lower the vibrational frequency, the DNA repair possibility. There are positive, we say we can hear a person's voice or that energy that's there, it's present. Like I'm attracted to that kind of music. I feel like that food feels more living. You're going to be able to even go to the grocery store and you're going to like say, I'm attracted, I'm eating certain kinds of food. Your body is telling you you're attracted to something in particular because it needs certain things. Just as a weed grows in a garden and we put chemicals on the soil to supposedly kill the weeds have root systems and they're counterbalancing the imbalance that's present. Now, science knows that there's an energy in that root system that brings up nutrients to the soil. But we've killed the possibility for that to happen. So we have degenerated in our stewardship and responsibility to try to be in control, and we've taken on the dictatorship rather than being responsible in the dominion of stewardship. And subsequently, we have then become a victim of circumstance. So if the soil is depleted of the nutrients, the plants are depleted of nutrients, and we become depleted and a victim of circumstance. That's why we do these calls. And the call here today is called the Garden of Life. And I'd like to have Laura, if you would join me in your so beautiful prophetic way of speaking about all living things as God commanded in the creation and our responsibility to reproduce after his kind. I want to hand it over to you, Laura, because I am feeling your profoundness is so alive in my life and other lives, and I want to hand it over to you. Thank you, sweets.
I'm in awe, and I'm confident that each of us will be, if we haven't already made notes from that clock of when we're operating at the peak of each one of our systems. I am going to make that be a paper that I hang in my pantry. So I'm going to just talk about 5 words. I think I'll start out with the word dominion. The word dominion is a authority that is granted to humankind by the Heavenly Father so that we can accomplish the greatest good for the greatest number of people. The word domination is a counterfeit. It's a false authority, and it was granted by the adversary in order to accomplish the most benefit for one, not for all. So dominion versus domination is very profound in this conversation, especially considering that this is a phone call where we can invite people and have them learn how they may also partner with us for their own health. We're partnering with them for their health. They can partner with us for their health. So I'm going to take the word garden, the word Eden, the word beginning, and the word energy. That's actually 6 words. Dominion, domination, 1 and 2, garden, Eden, beginning, and energy. That's 3 through 6. The word garden in the Hebrew letters is only 2 letters in Hebrew. They are Gimel and Nun. Those 2 letters actually are objects, a camel and a fish. Here's the message that's inside of the word garden, is to lift up life. They consider the camel has to push in order to mount it, and in order to ride it, it has to lift up. So the fish darting through water is a symbol of life in the Hebraic consideration. So garden is spelled gone in English, and it means to lift up life. The word beginning is spelled with 3 Hebrew letters. I'll say what they are because they are objects. The 3 letters are Resh, Shin, Tav. here's the message that's inside of the word beginning. The highest consuming covenant, a contract, a covenant. Then the word Eden is spelled with 3 Hebrew letters, Ayin, Dalit, Nun. And here's the coded message inside of those 3 little object pictures. This is Eden. This is loaded. Listen to this. This is Eden, to see, know, experience, understand, and obey, entering into the pathway of life. And then the word energy, it has the most letters in it. Energy in Hebrew sounds very much like energy in English. It's pronounced energia. And it is an alif, a nun, a resh, a gimel, a yud, and a hey. So here's the sentence that gets made from that. What comes from the first strong life of the highest lifted up to work. So I have goosebumps, or Holy Spirit bumps. My mother-in-law calls them Holy Spirit bumps, because everything that you just shared, Liddy, in relationship to the biological clock falls into the category of these 4 definitions. So now I'm going to ask you if it's all right if I just go ahead and read the definitions only in the order of this: beginning, garden, Eden, and energy. Is that fine if I just read that, Liddy?
Absolutely, Laura.
The highest consuming covenant to lift up life, to see, know, experience, understand, and obey, entering the pathway of life. What comes from the first strong life of the highest, lifted up to work. Case closed.
So, Laura, as we begin to understand the divineness of what we are, and if we could eliminate certain outside frequencies that interfere with our bodies, that we could have greater resistance towards disease. And I don't know who quoted that. That might be Tesla. I think Tesla said, if you could eliminate certain outside frequencies that interfered with our bodies, we would have greater resistance towards disease. And so many pollutants have been found to lower healthy body frequencies. And processed or canned foods, for example, tend to have a frequency of 0. So on the contrary, fresh produce has up to 15 megahertz. Dried herbs have 12 to 22 megahertz. And fresh herbs from 20 to 27. So I have actually a table of findings that they found in the human body and food frequencies. So I'm going to just give you a little insight about healthy body, but there's a key point that I'm going to make. And the elements of creation in Genesis 3:19, the elements are minerals, and they are the basic inanimate building blocks of all life. And so the microbes use a combined elements to then form and contribute to higher structures. Everybody we know must understand this piece of the divine design. And therefore, all of us to use for all forms of life, when the products, living minerals, go into our body with structured water molecules as the river of delivery, it's not sitting on the outside of the cell. It's going into the nucleus of the cell. But minerals are the electrical conductor. We have higher energy held within the cell membrane, passing the membrane, the gatekeeper, and it holds a higher vibration. And Dr. Otto Warburg said this in 1926. A body that has cancer has just 2 things. Cancer answer is simple. Hypoxia and acidosis. And acidosis is low pH, low potential hydrogen, and hypoxia is lack of oxygen. And the carrier of what we're talking about is the minerals are the carrier. But the higher life forms, we have to have the higher life forms, is the insects and the plants and the animals and humans all depend upon these elements and these microbes. And then natural designs then produce natural results. And that's consistent. It's repeatable, it's predictable, and each after its own kind. So what I do today, we must know that we're the thread woven into the system that once it goes into our body as a living matter, came from the earth mantle, buried in, say, preserved for this time as such as now, and then that goes back into the system, it gives life back. And in turn, gives us oxygen so that we can breathe. And then we, in turn, have this constant dialogue of love as a vibration. So let's look at this. The healthy body. A genius mind, brain, frequency is 80 to 82 MHz. All of them is megahertz. A brain frequency range that the brain can maintain is 72 to 90. So the genius mind is 80 to 82, but the range is 72 to 90. Normal brain is 72. In the human body range, that's 62 to 78. So the human body from neck up, 72 to 78. We're talking about going back into this higher frequency. So the knowledge and the wisdom of what we think about impacts what we bring about. You change your thoughts, change your life, right? So here we are. The human body from neck down is 60 to 68. Thyroid, parathyroid glands, 62 to 68. Thymus, 65 to 68. This might not matter to you, but your heart is 67 to 70. I'll see if we can't get this posted. Lungs, 58 to 65. Liver, 55 to 60. You might go back to your little human body energy clock. And the liver, 55 to 60. And the pancreas, 60 to 80. Now listen to the next part. The diseased body. Cold and flu start at 57 to 60. Disease starts at 58. Candida, overgrowth, starts at 55. Receptive to Epstein-Barr is 52. Receptive to cancer is 42. And death begins at 25. Now I'm going to give you one more because this is absolutely critical. Fresh foods are from 20 to 27. Herbs are the same. Dried foods, 15 to 22. Mm-hmm. Herbs, 15 to 22. And processed canned food is 0. So here we are, thinking about the possibility of the highest frequency on a cellular level and looking at it from a negative, maybe equilibrium that exists. Toxins are depolarizing the cell, and it actually ends up losing its ability to attract the magnetic energy. And this can lead to physical, the psychological, the emotional, and the spiritual dis-ease. So when we understand the garden of life is that when we understand the power that lies within the supplementary giving as it is in the biodegraded, life-giving, living microorganisms, that we can actually have it delivered, but the structured water has to be a part of this equation because it needs to have distribution ability. So looking at it from even understanding, as yesterday Dick Matuition did such an amazing presentation on the humic and fulvic minerals, living minerals, mineralizer, and we can put what is called the mineralizer into a gallon of water, and we can put it in our gardens as we're planting the garden. Mm-hmm. And it can become a part of the food that we eat. And we are building back from a low vibration to a higher vibration. And that is called restoration. And that's called the gift of life. We can restore from the core, not from the exterior thought process. It has to become a part of the world within. So for each human cell, the body contains microbes, cells. It's the microbial partnership that actually becomes the manifestation of our greaterness. And our own DNA, which is a unique, identifiable species all by itself that makes you, is that all of it is recognizable. So we become a part of the whole. And this is why we know that the living minerals are a chelator, going to help your body detoxify and take the lower vibrational energy from within. And chelation means break it up, so it can abort the abnormal, and then it chelates the food and the goods that are being brought into the system and breaks it down so it can become the distribution for giving of life. And subsequently, death, dead, disease does not have anything to do with what is manifesting in the body. And that's the biofeedback. Your body is giving you what is called feedback. And no longer is there traumatization, inflammation, degenerative tissue. It all produces what is called healthy living. The garden of life is what we want to impart today. Laura, any closing thoughts?
Oh, please. I'm gonna read. It'll probably take me 2 minutes. What is humic and fulvic complex? Humic and fulvic is the end product of decomposition of organic matter. Humic is the large chain molecule, and fulvic is the absolute smallest molecule of that compost. It has all the genetic information, all the nutrition, and all the antioxidant capacity. There are 9 basic functions that we utilize from humic and fulvic compounds. One of them, and I'm only going to read one because it holds hands with what you just said, Liddy, about the brain and the liver. One of them is the production of energy inside the cell. The mitochondria of your cells are the energy generators. They produce ATP in the Krebs cycle, and they run off of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, which are delivered into the cell by fulvic acid. If carbon, hydrogen, or oxygen levels drop, so does mitochondrial activity, which results in low energy. The carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen complex of the fulvic molecule is basically a polysaccharide. Fulvic acid is very high in polysaccharides, and if you study immune enhancement through nutrition, you'll always come across polysaccharides. Polysaccharides are fuel for the mitochondria. I'm almost done. Every cell in the body has mitochondria, depending on the type of cell. You have anywhere from 1 mitochondria per cell up to 2,000 mitochondria per cell, depending upon the energy requirement of that cell. Brain cells and liver cells have the highest muscle cells, and nerve cells also have a high number of mitochondria. If you study nutrition, circulation, hormones, and detoxification in the human body, you will find that everything is routed through the liver. Liver cells have a very high energy requirement. Each liver cell has between 1,000 to 2,000 mitochondria in order to carry out their job. They need very high amounts of molecular oxygen. I'm done. Go ahead, Liddy.
Thank you, Laura. My closing words today is knowing. And Isaiah 58:11. And the Lord will continually guide you and satisfy your desire in scorched places and give strength to your bones. And you will be like a watered garden and like a spring of water whose waters do not fail.